Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pardonable Podcast. I'm your host, David Lilly, coming back at episode 63. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I have a great guest, a returning guest. I'm going to tell you about her in just a minute. But before we get started, if you want to support this podcast, your boy put out a book. It's got art and poetry combined. You can go to pardonable.com, buy that book. Be like, this podcast is the greatest podcast of all time. How can I make sure this podcast keeps going with great guests? Pardonable.com. Buy the book. Oh, this is how high tech I am. Ready for this one? Oh, let's do it. That's how high tech I am. You can go to pardonable.com, by every meaningless measure. That's the title of the book. Or you can just go to Amazon, type it in, leave a review, a nice one. None of the bad reviews. We don't do that here. But anyway, you want to support the podcast, pardonable.com. That was the quickest ad read ever. My guest today is a returning guest. I had her on previously. She was running for mayor in 2021 of the capital, Albany, my stomping grounds. And she's back returning, running for New York State Assembly up here in the capital region. She's going to tell me all about that because you guys know I'm super smart when it comes to the politics. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to run she's running as a Republican. We're going to get into what it's like to run as a Republican in such a hardcore Democratic city. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. My guest tonight is Alicia Purdy. Alicia, how are you doing today?
Hi, doing well. Thank you for having me on.
All right, so tell me about this run so I can get caught up to be like, yeah, I know exactly what New York State Assembly is. Can you tell me what that is?
Yes. Okay. So I am running for New York State Assembly, and I'll just give you a little quick rundown. In New York State, just like you're broken up into counties, you're also broken up into assembly districts, and the lines constantly shift. But I am currently living in the Assembly District number 109, and very similar to how the House and the Senate work on the federal level, where you have three branches of government: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch. In the legislative branch, there's the House of Representatives and there's the Senate. It's the same way in the state of New York. We have a New York State House of Representatives. We call it the Assembly. And then we have the Senate. And similar to how it is at the federal level, one house puts out legislation, the other house has to sign off on it, and then you bring it to the governor for the approval, and then that's how a bill becomes a law. And so you can just watch that on Schoolhouse Rock. They just say the same thing I just told you. That's where I actually learned it. It inspired me to run for office when I was 7. And so I'm running for the 109th district because in the assembly, they're the representatives of the people, and the Senate represents the interests of the state. And so you would bring those two together and hopefully get some things done in your state. And so in the assembly district I'm in, it covers Albany and Guilderland and a little bit of Voorheesville, Altamont, and a little bit of kind of New Scotland area. And so what I would be doing is going into the assembly and debating with other assembly people or building relationships with other lawmakers and putting out legislation that hopefully represents the interests not only of the state, but of the people in the state, specifically in my district. And so right now we've been represented for quite some time by a really long string of Democrats, and they're putting out legislation that it's not even common sense legislation. It's really just partisan, and it's very agendized. And so it doesn't really represent lots of people in Guilderland, especially. You maybe could make the argument for Albany. But anyway, so I'm running because I'm a common sense New Yorker. And every time I do in my little videos, that's what I say. I'm a common sense New Yorker running to represent common sense New Yorkers in the capital region, but making sure our voices are heard at that legislative level. So that really does matter. People don't realize, I think a lot of times, what is going on there. And that's by design. They don't want you to realize that. As a reporter and a journalist, I'm very all about transparency. That's what I have, like this overdeveloped sense of injustice. I want everybody to know. Yeah. I want everybody to know we're the fourth branch of government, the watchdogs of the government, where it should have been anyway. And so, yeah, I had somebody ask me the other day, they said, hey, the incumbent who is stepping down from her seat, this is a vacant seat now. They said, hey, you're this incumbent that's in there now. They're really well regarded, and they're down at the central warehouse, and they're, getting it torn down, and they've been putting all these things into housing. They're really, really well regarded for that. And they said, how are you going to compete with that? And I said, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I was like, I'm just going to turn around. We're just going to do 180. Like, pick anything you want. I'm going the other direction. I said, clearly the direction we're going in isn't working. And I said, while she's out there kissing babies and shaking hands, Do you want to know about the legislation she's been writing that you actually didn't know about? And then someday it'll be on the news and you'll be like, what? When did we have to turn over all of our children to remove their right pinky? I didn't vote for that. Actually, you did.
Yeah.
You voted for the legislator who wrote that legislation. And so, anyway, it's important to me that not only do people know, but that somebody that's in there is making good decisions that are more based on common sense than political agenda. That's the whole spiel.
That's fair enough. I think a lot of people, and me being in that area, I think a lot of people think when they think of Albany, they're like capital region, got to be nothing but Democrats up there. But in the surrounding areas, it's not just Democrats. It's actually somewhat of a decent mix. But that stronghold in
Yeah.
Albany is pretty hardcore. How do you feel? How do you feel, representative in that area? That I guess was that southwest side of Albany, Gilderland, that area. That's kind of the southwest
Yeah.
area, I guess,
So,
of the capital region.
as of the
Is that
recording
correct?
of, yeah, no, it is.
Maybe I'm
And
wrong.
well,
Okay, yeah,
so where Albany is positioned, it's, yeah, it's west and maybe a little bit south in parts. Where I am in Albany, my particular part of Albany, I actually live in the city of Albany.
okay,
And I mean, I ran for mayor. You have to live in the city. They
yep.
sometimes they don't. There was jokes all over, but Kathy
Well, they
Sheehan
have like,
really lives in Martha's Vineyard. And so,
well, she's got a few homes that she's
yeah, this is where she
somehow
goes to take
somehow
out her
she made all that
trash.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
brings her trash from Martha Vineyard over here to Albany.
because it's free because
Yeah,
you don't have to pay for
exactly.
trash in
That's
Albany.
right. Well, you do. You just didn't know. And so, anyway, when I ran for mayor in Albany, I realized that, first of all, people are just human beings. And that's what they need to see past the R in my name. I cannot tell you how many times someone has yelled at me, called me horrible names, slammed their door in my face, or chased me out their house, like yelling, like, don't you come back here, get your feet off my property, that kind of thing. That's not the norm, but it does happen. Most people literally just want live their trash picked up. They just want their kids to be safe. Like, it's just
Yeah,
human being stuff that unites us all. And so
yeah,
when you focus on that, being a Republican, you got to do a little massaging even with Republicans. I'm right now, as we're recording this, I'm still in
yeah.
petition season getting my name onto the ballot, actually. And so I'm not officially on the ballot until I collect a percentage of signatures from the entire district. There's a percentage of the
Okay,
population. And so I have to go to only Republicans. Like, you have to get like the permission of your party. That's how it works. It forces candidates to go meet the people you should be representing. You should not be a king in a castle. You're a representative of people. So I go out. I've been out since March 1st. I've been out every single night except for 2 nights when I was sick. Other than that, 100% of these nights I have been out knocking on doors and petitioning these
nice.
signatures from Republicans. And so right now it's been okay, but even Republicans, they're so disenfranchised by what's going on in politics. They're embarrassed to be Republicans. And
Mm,
in Albany specifically, we're 10-1 Democrat to Republican.
yeah,
And so they're embarrassed amongst their neighbors. They don't want people to know they're Republicans. So now you go to the door and you just outed them, sometimes to their own family members. I've had people like shove me out the door and be like, "Oh, no, go go outside, go outside." Like, nobody here knows I'm a Republican. I'm like, not even your spouse.
wow.
It's very interesting. Guilderland has been different, much more welcoming.
Yeah,
I haven't had any rejection in Guilderland and Voorheesville, but they're also not super connected to what's going on in Albany. It's a very different vibe between the city of Albany and what we're experiencing, and the spread outness and the
yeah,
quietness, and you can't hear anything, and it's just birds and wind. And it's been very interesting to be a Republican. This is the easy part, and it's just going to go down from here. Because
yeah,
now,
yeah.
once I get my petitions in,
I'm so
then I
glad
got to
you
find
know
the
that.
Democrats, and I got to go get the no partiers. That's the biggest party in Albany. In New York State is the blank. They're just blanks. They're no party, unaffiliated voters.
Technically, I'm an independent. I'm registered as one,
There is
so I don't get.
there's no independent in New York. It's gone. That's what piece of legislation you missed.
Oh,
There's
it's
no more
fine.
independents, no more
I'm sure I
libertarians.
filed and I just like set it on top of the mailbox. I was like,
They
it'll
dropped
work.
you. What happened was when they got rid
I
of
knew about the
independent and
libertarian
yeah,
part.
gone,
Yeah. Yeah,
gone.
because I sent it in and I was like, this is what I'm registering as libertarian. And they sent back, like, hey, would you like to register for a party? And I was like, what are you
Which
what
is,
do you mean? I just did. Yeah.
I didn't vote for
They've
that.
been New York, and it's something because I follow libertarian politics in New York fairly well. And just getting on the ballot is it's basically like you gotta I don't know what you have to do. Maybe
It's like a
do
full-time job.
yeah, I have no idea. It's such a struggle. And it's something that even from New York, a lot of libertarians are like, you guys think it's hard. come to New York. And it's, to be honest, it ain't just the Democrats. Republicans were all for libertarians not being on the ballot, but that's most likely because you live in a dem. And be honest, in New York, if you're libertarian, chances are you lean right. Not a lot of left leaning
It's
libertarians, from what I can
interesting that
see.
you say that. Maybe
I
I've seen
I
left
could
leaning.
be wrong about this. I
Yeah,
could be
I
totally
haven't seen
wrong.
any right. So I would consider myself so I'm not a true anything, or really, I'm not boxable, and I think that really confuses people because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, what people really hate to hear is that I'm a Christian. That's how I label myself. I'm a follower of
Do you
God,
want me to end
follower of
this
Christ.
podcast now? Oh my God, she said it. Stop, stop. No.
I already know. I already saw it coming. I already have an answer ready.
Yeah.
So I'm unboxable because I have really strong libertarian leanings, actually.
Yeah.
I'm a don't tread on me person,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
The Republican Party is so drifty that there are a couple, things I can glean there. I will tell you with the Democrats, the way that they originally started was they considered themselves to be the party of the people, the working man, the blue collar people. And so I'm not a Democrat and I don't espouse to their world values. However, I definitely think that like the fat cat vibe that you get from the Republicans is off as well. And so I think that there's a little bit that not worldview wise, I have a worldview. But when it comes to does anyone make a good point? I think a lot of different people make good points. And I definitely am anti authoritarianism 100%. And a lot of these definitions are just blending and shifting now at this point anyway. And like, what is
Yeah.
a Republican? What is a Democrat? But especially when you look at like traditional labels of those, I actually would have called myself a constitutional libertarian in the past, but now I'm just a Republican and it's fine. But yeah, so the labels are hard and they just keep stacking like Jenga blocks. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just a person.
I think that individualist aspect of running for politics, going in it with that particular flavor, I think that's probably your best bet.
It's
To
hard though. People like their boxes.
Oh, well, that's the problem, is people like their boxes because 'cause they're in one, but they definitely don't like it when you're not in one too, because it makes things more complicated. People are complicated, and when they're like, "Well, I don't wanna talk this Alicia Purdy person up. Who are you? What party?" And I could have done the same thing, like, "Hey, Alicia, you're running for, New York State Assembly. What party are you affiliated with?
First
Because
thing I hear,
it's gonna change exactly how I'm gonna treat you on my, podcast." People do that, and they like that
mhm.
because
It
it's
is
an easy
easy,
target.
and you
It's
don't
easy
have
to
to get
box
to know
people
the
in.
human being, and you know what? I will tell you the R can be harmful, the R of the Republican, it can feel like a little bit like a scarlet R
Yeah.
because of, so Donald Trump, for example, it's a mixed bag of in New York State, maybe not in
Yeah, yeah.
Oklahoma, but in New York State, Donald Trump's a mixed bag of opinions, and so
Yeah.
you hear Republican, some people, all they hear is Donald Trump, and what they project onto me is you must think like him, you must act like him, you must approve of all that he does and says because of that R. Otherwise, you would have chosen a D. That's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really that black and white for people.
yeah.
And it has forced me, especially when I ran for mayor and everyone wanted to talk about Donald Trump, it forced me to get very creative with my answers and
Mhm.
I learned so much about staying focused on the matter at hand because when they would say, "Well, did you vote for Donald Trump in the last election?" I was like, "Do you see Donald Trump here right now asking about your potholes? Because he doesn't care
Yeah,
about your
yeah,
potholes. I do.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I'm here."
exactly.
And
Perfect,
so
perfect. Hey,
it's the
good,
same
good.
I just had to learn to redirect conversations because and I understand. People, they feed all day on the news and whatever else, and it forms their opinions, and then they come out ready to fire at the first person that comes to the door.
Yeah,
I understand. I have like a compassion for that. I see that people are scared. People are fed up. People are becoming impoverished. People, they have all this fear about the news and the what ifs. And so you have to have an extra measure of grace for sure to go to the doors and get people to open up to you. And that's where being a journalist comes in. Really a handy skill that I have. I'm an expert interviewer.
mhm,
And so I get to people want to talk about themselves. And so if you can
mhm.
draw them out and find that place, the more you draw them out, the more you're like, see, we just became friends. We
I
both
know.
like
No, yeah,
pizza. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, maybe I will vote for you. And so
yeah,
it works. And when you
yeah.
realize I'm a human being, get to know me. I'll show you how. It doesn't always work. It's like 97%.
Yeah, I
3%
think
you get your butt handed to you and you leave.
well, it depends on where you are too,
It does.
especially if you're in downtown. I think I just heard this. I just heard this recently. Someone talking about this exact thing. It's hard to just dismiss someone when you finally get to know them, especially if they're likable. So
Mm,
you're like, man, I hate Trump, but that Alicia Purdy person seems pretty good. But that in itself starts to unbox and start
right.
to unbox things in their own brain, and hopefully they get enough courage. This is what there's two things that frustrate me about the capital region. Last time, and I've talked about this numerous times with other podcast guests too, because most of the people I talk to are all over the country. I
Okay.
think you might be the only one from this area, other than maybe my friend,
Oh,
that I've had on the
very
podcast.
nice.
I try not to even bring up Capital Region. Like, no, you don't want to know about it. Half of it's frozen all the time. It's fine. Um,
The other half's
but
mad.
exactly. But when I talk with my political friends about getting involved in local politics. I bring up Albany all the time because you ran for mayor, and I remember this specifically. I don't
Yes.
remember the population or of the registered voters in Albany, but when I tell people that um, the incumbent mayor Sheehan won with 12,000 votes, that's
Oh,
it.
I think it was fewer than that. Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, no, I think
It was
12,000
fewer.
was the total amount of people in
It was
Albany
so bad.
who
It
voted.
was so bad.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's like a block. Like
And
that's one block.
she like torpedoed down. She started high because she was the first female mayor. And so when Jerry Jennings stepped down, she came in high with like a lot of votes. People were like, "Yay, a woman, we're woke." And
Yeah.
then in the next election, it went down significantly. It's like on Wikipedia, you can look at it, or Ballotopedia. It went down significantly. By the time it was my election, I'm gonna say I think it was fewer than 10,000 that she got
It
off the
might
top
have
of my
been.
head,
I think it
and
was.
it was bad. It was like a death knell. In fact, she came out, like, the next day, like, "We handily beat," you know, whatever, and I was like, "You'll call that handily? Because I can literally draw a pie chart right now to show how badly you went, and you got egg on your face in front of your own party." And I didn't even care about winning or losing at that point, like, I understood the realities,
Yeah, yeah.
but I thought, somebody had said to me, she lost so badly that her party like no longer has faith in her, and they considered my percentage. So she got like 10,000 ish. I got like 2,500 votes. I
Mhm.
actually made history in the city of Albany. No Republican candidate, regardless of their name, regardless of any other thing, has ever earned as many votes as I did, and I only got 2,500 votes.
That
But I
says a lot
made
more about
history.
Albany than it does about you, to be honest.
Yeah,
That's
no,
that's
it was
that's
terrible.
that's pretty rough.
It was one of the lowest turnouts actually because she's considered a low enthusiasm person, like, people just aren't enthusiastic about her, they just kinda checking off the box,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it to me, that was a huge win, and you know what? I saw
I
so
agree.
many wins, I didn't care, I toward the end, I started to not even wanna be the mayor anymore. It's like, I actually
It's
now I don't know if
it's a
I want
big burden.
this. It is.
You're kinda I mean, love Albany,
I
but
do too.
I think a lot of people didn't vote because they're disenfranchised on voting in general.
Yeah.
And this goes back to like, when you knock on the doors, you're like, "Hi, I'm Republican, you register as a Republican." You're like, "No, no, 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 shh. I don't want my family to know."
Mm,
But what I would prefer is the status quo. Can you please move aside and let me be mugged by this person next to me? Like,
true.
and there's a whole thing going on in just the internet sphere of all these cities falling apart, people being mad at the sanctuary parts of it, except for Martha's Vineyard. They love when immigrants just come on in for 48
They
hours,
want 'em to come in their house, yeah.
but then they have to go. They're like, well, you made tacos for us, we appreciate
Yeah, they're
that,
like, "Oh, you did the lawn,
can you
very
head on out?
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good, go on. Trim those
But
shrubs and
all
leave."
but all these other major Democrat cities, these strongholds, they're all complaining, and a lot of, to be honest, a lot of Republicans online, like, I get you're mad, but you voted for this. Like,
Yeah.
how is anybody, and on the outside, all the country, and that's the thing about, like, Albany's surrounded by red. I don't know if many people know this, but Albany's
New
surrounded by
York
red.
is, actually red. We're, like, secretly red. It's
Oh,
true.
secretly red. But the reason
Yeah.
we're secretly red is because half the red people inside Albany would only want to say it because it is a scarlet letter. You
They
walk
will
around,
check your registration. Did you know that before you get a state job, they will go check your registration. I
no
know
way.
tons of people,
Oh
tons,
boy.
that have as I'm out petitioning, I can only get a signature from other Republicans for this
Yeah, yeah.
particular phase of the process. And, I talked to these people at my church, and I was like, "Hi, you guys should sign for me." I already knew. I checked their registry because I know how to do it too. And so they said, "Oh, um, we'll talk later." And so
Mm,
I went and talked to him, and I was like, "Look, I was just Joshing you. And so
Yeah, yeah.
they said, no, it's the state job. They said, we don't want to get registry checked, and it's known. And they said, we're so sorry. Of course, like we would vote for you. In fact, they said we'd even help you campaign. They were like, we just can't change our party affiliation because they will check our registry and they will pass us over for a promotion. They won't even hire us. Same thing with the unions. They all do it. And so actually, that's why I said we're secretly red. Maybe we're like purpley. It's because so many people, they call themselves Republicans in their heart, but they're Democrats on paper.
Yeah.
Isn't that
That's,
interesting? It's
how do
sad.
you how do you face something like that and and look at the future and go like, "No, this is." Yeah, there's a lot of people. Man, it's hard for me to say that because I'm outside the system for the most part. Never had a state job, never plan on having a state
Yeah.
job. So to me, I'm like, "You wanna what?"
I'm
Plus
campaigning for one.
my libertarian bent automatically is like, "You wanna spy on me on this too?" No, I'll
Yeah.
pass. But just it's not like it comes when you said they were like, "Well, they'll pass on you with promotions knowing where you register." It's like, "Yeah, that makes sense." That's the sad part. It's not even a surprise that they would do something like that. It's like, "No, no,
It's
that totally
expected.
makes sense."
Yeah.
And the idea here's the other thing that I've noticed too. Albany never gets any, notice because we have the city. Everyone's paying attention to the city. No one really cares about Albany. But the other thing I noticed is there's not a lot of journalism that happens in Albany, and I wanted to talk to you about this. I actually, for the podcast, I was like, "Well, I live here. I wouldn't mind having a few journalists on in my area to talk to me about what's going on in Albany. Let me look for a few of them."
Okay.
Well, I don't know where that's at. Where do I have to go on LinkedIn? Who uses LinkedIn? And so, not a lot. I mean, there might be. They're just not letting me join those Facebook groups because they're like, "What is this guy's profile?" No, he's not
Yeah.
allowed in these. But I mean, I don't hear a lot at Albany, and I think most people assume it's just corrupt. It's
So
just what it
I'll
is.
give you a couple right now off the top of my head. I'm gonna
Let's
plug a
do it.
couple of local
I
grassroots
would
journalists. You gotta
love to
check
hear it.
out Bugatti Holly and Gangsta News Network.
Oh, I'm writing that one down.
You can tell him I sent you.
I will.
Um, so he is true citizen journalism. He is not a
Awesome.
Republican or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. He's
He's
just a journalist.
everywhere. I don't even know that he has his degree in journalism. He actually works for DGS in Albany, but he is. You can check him out online. He's
Perfect.
people are filtering him videos. There's that also, but he's everywhere. One time there was a shooting around the corner from my house, and a reporter gave me a tip about it, and I ran on foot because it was near my house. And I was there, and Bugatti Holly was there. And we saw each other like, "Oh, what are you doing here? All right, get on my video
Yeah.
shot." And so I couldn't believe it. He was there with his hood up because that's what he does. He gets these great stories that you just don't hear about anywhere else. It is feet on the ground journalism.
I
And
love
so
that.
anyway, he's got Gangsta News Network and Fulton County News. So he and Sidewinder, they'll do
Oh, I
things
know
around
about them.
Facebook.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
so they'll do a bunch as well. And excuse me, it's not Albany specific all the time, but
yep.
they'll cover things in Albany, and even moving Saratoga forward. They're another one that's regional,
Yeah.
and they'd be another one worth looking into. So I follow everybody, and I go on the Nextdoor apps, that kind of thing. But I will tell you, if you are a traditional journalist working for like a network, okay, I just told you I was speaking with WAMC.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Tell me
after
about that.
the
Let's
okay,
let's
so
let's talk about that.
after that interview was over, I said
Oh, hold on. Let me tell
I'm
everybody.
expecting
So
big
you
things.
before we go on that. So you went on WAMC, which is a local news station. Um and you had an interview with them. Just
Yes,
tell me about that. So you got an interview. Is
I
it
did.
surprising is so they're left leaning, I'm assuming.
So
Uh
they're part of like the National Public Radio NPR
NPR. So
network.
NPR, yeah, I mean that's state funded or federally funded,
Yeah,
and it says it's non-biased, but if you've ever
if they
listened
can't
to
prove it.
NPR, if you ever listen, I remember listening to NPR one time, and this was my favorite. Side note, side rant. It was back when the Hong Kong was protesting, and I
Yeah.
was like, because I would listen to NPR every once in a while, and they had a journalist go out there and talk to some of the people
Yeah.
in Hong Kong,
Okay.
and they're like, "How do you feel about about this whole merger thing? You know, like Hong Kong become part of China." And the things that came out of their mouth were like, "We hate these people. They're not like us, and we don't want them around." And I was like, "NPR is just put on a hardcore racist."
Yeah.
And they were like, "But we understand." And I was like, "They would have never done that for anybody else."
No.
But they were anyway,
And that's where you
super
see the
left wing.
bias. That's where you see it,
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
the
It's
voices they
there.
choose to elevate. You see that's where you see this bias.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, So locally speaking, specifically, it's been a mixed bag. The reporter that I spoke to, his name is Dave Lucas, and he's a really even-handed reporter. He's very fair, and
Cool.
really, that's high praise when
It's
you're
those
talking
Daves.
about like NPR.
I don't know about them Daves. They're really good
Well,
people.
this is a good Dave. He's a good. He's, you know what? The most I expect as a Republican is to. I just expect them to be fair. I don't need a PR piece. I just
Right?
would like an even playing field. And out of all the reporters I've probably ever spoken with, he is definitely one of the one that's been that way. However, when the interview was over, I said to him, "I'm expecting high things. I'm expecting this to be even." And so,
Yeah, yeah.
and I said, "But you know, at the end of the day, I do accept that you're beholden to your editor. And you can have a reporter who is,
Yeah.
maybe they have their own thoughts, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. I was a journalist. I am a journalist. I was a journalist for 20 years, and my boss would make me write high praise pieces about Barack Obama. And I would be so frustrated. I couldn't even like, he was like, I want you to use the words New Camelot. And I was like, huh, I'm just calling him New Camelot. I was like, this is ridiculous. Because he loved the Kennedy administration. And he would say, give me a list of phrases. You have to use these in your article. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I can't use it now. I'm not going to like put it in my resume. I don't want anyone reading that I wrote this. And so sometimes this is the game that you
Yeah.
play.
How do I tie in New Camelot to when he killed that kid at that wedding, that American citizen?
How about
When
when
he
his wife
drone
said,
bombed that person,
America
how do
was
I do
never
that?
really that great? How do I
Yeah.
add that into, says the lady from the New Camelot?
That's right. That's fine.
So that was hard. So, so NPR, I grew up listening to NPR. I'm in
Yeah.
radio, I'm in TV my whole life. I'm a writer. And so I grew up listening to Dick Estelle Radio Reader locally in NPR, Alan Chartock, All Things Considered.
Yep.
And so I loved glorified NPR before I understood like left and right kind of things when I was like a teenager and a kid. But as I got older, the NPR people or the local WAMC people, if it wasn't specifically like this one reporter you kind of build a rapport with, the rest of them, if they got sent out on assignment to something I was doing when I was running for mayor, the headlines would be bananas. I had a headline one time. Chris Churchill from the Times Union called me. He spent a long time on the phone with me, giving me this long interview, only to have the headline say, it's somewhere, you can Google it, it's out there, and it says something like, Alicia Purdy's biggest draw is that she's not Kathy Sheehan. And I was like,
Well,
that's
he's
what
not
you got from
wrong,
that?
but he's not wrong.
I was
Um,
like, forget my platform, forget my
yeah.
ideas. Like, you think my biggest idea is that I'm not the woman they call the leprechaun of Albany? No,
Ooh, I have not heard that
that's
one,
not
but
me.
I'm writing that one down as well.
I hear a lot. And so anyway, talking with WAMC, I got to share about the platform, but they did ask me questions like, and I haven't put it on my social media yet, but he did ask me, he said, hey, you keep losing elections. And I was like twice a bridesmaid, never a bride. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is that the vibe we're going for? And he said, well, you're going to be an eternal candidate. And I said, no, I'm not going to be an eternal candidate. And he said, well, everybody says that. And I was like, okay, wait, first of all, I technically have only run twice. I ran for mayor and I'm running now. I ran for assembly in the last cycle, but I had to abruptly drop out of the race. I did not make a public announcement about it at all. I got myself through petition season. I got all my hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of signatures you have to get. I did it all. But then life made a hard pivot for me. I pulled my kids out of school in 2022. And the incumbent, who was Pat Fahey at the time, her son very tragically died of cancer in that
Oh,
same
wow.
time.
Oh, man.
And in that same month, right after he died, I had earned my place on the conservative line, and the conservatives conspired against me, the Conservative Party of New York, of Albany
No,
County, and they threw
they
me
would
off the conservative line. So I
they wouldn't.
lost the
Those
line.
those
Pat's
conservatives would never do such a
Pat's
thing.
son died, and that was a horrible. It just takes
Yeah,
the wind out of your sails. And then I
yeah.
had to pull my kids out of school, and so I didn't lift a finger, and nobody knew I hadn't made a public announcement. In that November, I got 10,000 votes, and I was like,
Look at that.
wow, these people really hate this woman. They're like willing to, they see any name on there and they're like, let's vote for any name but the one that's on, always on the line. So when this election came around, somebody said, I got asked to run, actually. They said, look, the seat is vacant.
There
Could
you
you
go.
could you run? And I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it one more shot. So WAMC was like, you're gonna be a perpetual candidate. And I was like, no. No, this is it for me. I'm good. I've got a real life. I do other things.
Yeah. I think that's such a weird way to put
That's what they do. That's what they do.
anything.
There's
I
no
was
there's no warmth. They really are just like they're so cynical and they just come at you and it's so interesting because they have a job to do and they've probably seen a lot of things, but they definitely have kind of the cynical nature of someone who's just like seen a lot and is
yeah.
just a little tired.
Yeah. No, I can get that. I mean, sometimes I listen to it. I listen to the interviews and they seem tired. They seem really tired. Um
I like Dave. He's the nice one. There's not nice ones. That's the fact. The Times Union,
I don't listen to them.
rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
In fact, in this time, Doug Gowdy from WGY, he's great. Um, I decided, you know what I'm going to do in this campaign? I don't know if I'm going to stick to this, but I thought I'm going to say publicly, I'll say it right now. If you
Uh-oh.
read it about me in the Times Union, they got it secondhand because I don't talk to them.
Oh,
That's what
I think everything at the
anything there
Times
is
Union
secondhand.
secondhand. I was about to that's exactly what I said. Everything's there secondhand.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I want to talk about
Yeah.
this, especially on this, like, oh, you're gonna lose again. The fact that you got 10,000 votes without really even campaigning at all says a lot about where the city is. And this
Yeah.
goes back to what I said earlier, where there's a lot of people, Democrats even, who are like, I know we voted D's down ballot, but it's kind of really getting bad now. And I think here's the thing that happened too, the Lee Zeldin thing when he was in New York, he actually did really good. Surprised a
Yeah.
ton of people, and a lot of people went shocked it was because of Trump. I don't think so. I think it's just really good, and I think New Yorkers are really getting tired of the garbage.
I
And
hope
then
so.
even the new mayor down in the city, a lot of Democrats don't like them. And this immigrant thing with the sanctuary city thing is really starting to piss people off. Here's my thing. I don't know how you could be a Democrat. I mean, I understand how you could be a Democrat, especially if you lived here all your life. I haven't lived here all my
Sure.
life. It's
Yes.
easy for me to not be a part of that. But I don't know how you go to this point and be like, we've been doing this for so long. In Albany, I hate to tell anybody that has lived here for a while. Um, COVID hit and it never really quite got back up on its feet.
It's true.
Um, and that's the sad part. But I'd have to say it's a lot of the policies put in place. I don't know if people took like, hey, the city's kind of getting rough and businesses are closing everywhere. Does that have anything to do with who we're voting for? No, 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 no. It's definitely not the people we're voting for. And
There's a disconnect there.
I think people are starting to wake up with
I
that. And
hope so.
I think the presidential run and the peer view in the background, I think a lot of people are starting to look at that and be like, oh my God, these do matter. Maybe I should go vote because I'm going to the grocery store and I'm not sure if the presidents have anything to do with this, but I can't
Mhm.
afford my groceries. So
Yep.
somebody needs to give
A
me an
dozen
answer.
eggs at Hannaford the other day was $5. I was like, $5 for a dozen eggs? I
Yeah.
just I
It's because
I
New
couldn't
York probably
believe
put a
it.
sin tax on that too. Who knows?
No, they're burning
They're
down
like,
the chicken farms in Ohio.
that could be
Mm,
part of it too. And so that was so do you think you you're pretty probably pretty hopeful. Just to be honest, if I was looking at a ballot this time around, and be like, well, I know that one person is running as a Democrat, that I would be looking at the R's going, how do I block out the entire R? Because right now the
right.
D's are not doing a good job.
So I'm
I
running
would
on 2
hope
lines,
that.
and that does help. The
Okay,
conservative line
okay.
in New York helps because it so you can have a conservative that you might think is a Republican conservative, like,
Hmm.
they're like a MAGA Trumper type of thing. In
Yeah,
New York, that's not really the case. A lot of Democrats who are soft Democrats will vote conservative because they have a lot of conservative values. Maybe they're not pro-life, which is like a classically conservative value, but
yeah,
they might be like low tax, anti-authoritarianism, medical freedom, common sense with the education system kind of people. And
yeah,
so having that C line is important because it gives people a choice they can feel good about. Like a lot of people, when I ran for mayor, I stopped counting. I don't even know hundreds of people I've seen over the last couple of years since I ran said, I'm a Democrat who voted for you. And I never in my life thought I would vote for a Republican. But, they liked me or they met me and
yeah,
they realized they could connect with me and they really couldn't stand the way Albany was going. So there was that. Um, but the conservative line lets people do that without having to make like the R leap. It almost feels like a
yeah, yeah,
worldview leap when you're like, okay, well, I don't want to vote for anything related to, say, Donald Trump, for example, because
yeah.
that's always the big elephant in the room. Um, it helps people out in that way, and it was important to me to get the conservative line for that reason. In fact, I tried to do something called petition to ballot. And a petition to ballot means that you can actually seize yourself onto a line that you are not a part of if they
Oh,
don't give you
very
their
cool.
permission. And I was like, I'm going to
Cool.
run as a Democrat. I'm going to use opportunity to ballot and I'm going to get myself in the Democrat primary. Turns out last year, the legislation changed and nobody knew, and they removed that option. So
No,
my intention was to run as a Democrat, as well as a Republican, as well as a conservative, because I was like, let's give people all the options. Like I said,
that'd
I,
be wonderful.
I, I would love to see that kind of representation. Unfortunately, it was not possible. They got me. They preemptively got me. They probably saw that somebody like me would think like that's a pretty
I,
boss move, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't
hey,
do it.
kudos to you for that move. But there is, you have to know, there probably is definitely at least a handful of people in Albany going, uh, R, Alicia Purdy.
It's true.
I'm not voting for a
Yes.
Republican. But look at this Democrat with the same name. I'm voting for her.
Yeah.
They would have not even known it was
They
the
it
same person.
makes them feel good though that they didn't have to cross that line.
Right.
It's a
What is that
divide.
about? What is that about? Okay, so I'm fairly libertarian. Uh, I'm not really left leaning on. I don't like authority. Got authority issues. But I'm pretty conservative. I'm what they call a pejorative in the libertarian camp. I'm
Okay.
considered a conservatarian is where
Okay.
I fall.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
but a lot of my friends are Democrats, and growing up, I was in punk bands. Most of them were all like that, like George Bush is bombing kids. I'm like, I understand this. And then now that I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't, I don't know, I don't know where this whole. I mean, I do. It was 2016. It was Trump. Before it was
It
like, yeah,
was.
you could
I
be
was gonna
kind
say
of
the same thing.
friends.
Mhm.
It was Trump. Let's just be honest. It
It
was
was a
that.
dividing line for people. He's such a polarizing character in this narrative that we live in
Yeah,
with politics. He's so polarizing. He comes in, he's the anti-hero. That's so in novel writing, that's what he would be. He's the
I know.
person you love to hate. He's the anti-hero.
He's
He comes in and does
he's
all these
Deadpool.
good things. But
That's
then he
what
writes
it
yes.
is.
Then he writes these terrible things on Twitter and like inflames everybody. You can't gauge him. And so people hate that. They like to know what to
Yeah,
expect and they certainly don't they love to have people that they can crucify but also worship like it's this weird thing that people do and so I agree I was going to say it was
yeah,
2016 that became this hard line where now we just can't even be friends like friendships broke
yeah,
up over if you voted for Donald Trump
yeah,
that's a shame and I will say there were moments in time where I had the same thing toward people who voted for Biden I had to like in the election the first one I was like are you stupid?
yeah,
And I don't wanna live my life that way, and so I had to, like, work through that and realize at the end of the day, people don't revenge vote. They're voting what they really
yeah,
feel about what is best for the country, and so whether or not that is the literal best for the country, I had to learn to look at it and say, "This is the best they feel they can do." Now maybe they need to be educated or they need more experience or something like that, but if you're doing your best and I'm doing my best, then we can talk about what the best is because your heart is for this country. Okay, well, on that we agree. Let's work
yeah,
out the details, but we do agree we think our vote is the best for this country. It wasn't like I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because I hate Trump. Maybe they are now, but initially it
yeah.
was like they felt
I
like
would
he
say
was the
that's at
best
least
choice
60% of votes for Biden were because
for
Orange Man
revenge
bad.
votes. Yeah,
Yeah,
really was a
and to
game
be honest,
changer.
I understand that. If I was inundated with that much mainstream constant, like I lived
Sure.
through the same thing all the Democrats lived through too. And I'm be like, oh my God. And especially here lately, be like 95 indictments. Like, how do you even do that? But it's the same thing every time I turn it on. I go, oh, they're talking about some. Here's a good example. So I do live. Here's a little press every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. Pardon will live. You can go find me. I do a live show. And I stumbled upon this morning show called Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough.
Yes,
No idea what it was.
I'm
So I
aware.
started seeing clips and I was like, this guy's a lunatic. Like this guy's insane. And then
Yeah.
I started to put it all together and I was like, not only is he insane, this is how he starts his morning off. Like he starts his morning
Like
off
a
this
cup
way.
of hate.
I know. And so I did a whole bit about it, but I think it was Morning Joe. They interviewed some guy, and I didn't know what it was talking about first, but they talked about Biden's background. And I know I don't really want to talk about presidential stuff because to me it's not near as important
It's
as a little bit.
irrelevant. I agree.
Yeah. So I'll just say this piece because this is something I think people are starting to wake up to. I'm hoping they talk about Biden's background, like Biden, working class in Delaware. His he's from Scranton. He's one of the people. Trump, he's like, his dad was rich and the billionaire. And they pulled back and said, how come a bunch of middle American, basically rednecks and hicks, why are they voting for Trump? You'd think they'd vote for Biden. And it wasn't dawning on them that a lot of people are not voting identity anymore. They're
Mm,
voting practicality. And I think that is an advantage for all of the country. Because at some point in time, be like, yeah, maybe me and Biden had a similar upbringing, but still not that great. I can't deal with the life that I'm dealing with now. Um,
yep.
especially about the immigrant thing. I want to talk about that with you,
Okay.
and just I want to get your ideas on that. But I think that part, that identity, be like, well, this person looks like me, or I feel like this person. I can relate.
Yeah.
I think that's going out the window. I think because, to be honest, I don't relate to Trump at all, but he's not
Right.
looking too bad right now, and so I'm like, let's be honest. Let's just be honest.
Hold your nose
I
and vote. That's what they say. Hold your nose and vote.
At this point in time, I'm feeling more like every time I watch Joe Scarborough, I'm like, can I vote twice for Trump? Like that's where I'm at. It's
Yeah,
and
it's wild,
it's a
and people really
weird
take
thing.
his opinions, Joe, they take
God
his
no.
opinions, like, really seriously. I actually had a woman the other day, that is, at my church, and she said, "Can I ask," so she's an immigrant here, but she's been here like 30 years, a legal immigrant, and she's married to an American. But unless you're educated like we all are, like Americans are from your youth about the Constitution and the way we were founded, like there's just something you miss there if you're not from this country about our independence and our, the way our grit and the way that we've evolved over time. And so she said, "I'm really conflicted on who to vote for in this presidential election." And so I said, okay." And so she said, "I see Donald Trump and he's just got such a mouth on him." And she said, "I really hate the things he says, and he mistreats women. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, Joe Biden mistreats children, and I think that's worse." I was like,
God,
so
I can't believe you came out of that at church,
that's what
nonetheless.
I said. Hey, yeah, I'm in
No,
politics.
I'm
So you
just
gotta
joking.
say,
Yeah,
you gotta
no,
take
that's
your
fair.
opportunity. And so I said,
Look,
"Well,
if
I
there's a
said, which
place
is
to
it
talk
gonna be?"
truth,
Yeah,
if you're
and you
gonna
know what?
say truth, might as well say it on
I'm the
truth.
right person because I don't get upset anymore. I
Yeah,
really don't. It's not, I don't get like, "Well, you should because this." I listen. I've learned to become a better listener through politics and let people
yeah,
tell you their story and where they're coming from, and then you can meet them there.
yeah.
And so I
Active listening. That's a
yeah,
good skill.
very
I
much
don't think
so.
politicians have that anymore.
No,
The
I
only
said
people
I'm a
they're
journalist. I'm not a
listening to are like
politician.
the people that are giving them stock tips. That's the only person they're really
Yeah,
listening.
Martha Stewart,
Um,
stock tips. So
right?
I said to her, "Look," I said, I said, "Let me ask you this." I said, "Where are you getting your news?" I said, "Out of curiosity, where are you seeing that he's a good guy? Because I'm not seeing that anywhere." I was like, "Where do
Yeah,
you see this?" And she said, I'm watching a lot of like CNN." And I just was like, Okay, well, I'm gonna send you some other news sources." And I said, "You know what? The best thing you can do is just listen to both sides and pray and see what makes sense to you."
yeah,
Because I wasn't there to like, rip her politics out of her hands. She really was actually literally conflicted
yeah,
because she was hearing such hate, but something in her felt like, but I do see kind of like how the country's going in this kind of like nicer older gentleman. I'd like to vote for him, meaning Joe Biden, and this kind of like angry, red faced, floppy blonde Donald Trump. That's what they're seeing. This orange Cheeto man. She was like, she didn't know what to do because Donald Trump is better for the economy and the
yeah,
world and all these things. And so, anyway, I said, I'm going to send you a couple other things to look at because when you feed on the Joe Scarboroughs all day long and the Rachel Maddows of the world, and you just start your day feeding on the anger and the hate and the dislike and whatever. I just don't know how you face your day and how you frame the way that things go for you.
yeah.
It's really rough. I can't even watch that. To be honest with you, forget the politics aside, I can't even watch it.
I
I become like, I get like
It's rough.
anxiety from watching it.
It's rough. Here's another thing I think this is another thing where another cat that you got in the bag. And this goes for a lot of people because just from talking to you, and I've talked to you before, you're returning guest, so I kind of know, and I've seen your videos. And here's, man, I'm trying not to rabbit hole. Here's the thing. Let's start off with Joe.
Immigration. Coming back to
We're going to
immigration after this.
immigration. We'll get there. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Oh my God, you're so much better at podcasting than I am. The Joe Scarborough, the Rachel Maddow, the angry. I was like, your guys in charge. You guys, we have like one in Congress. We got like one vote, maybe different. You guys are running all the institutions, all the media outlets. Why are you guys mad? And then you have all the right wing over here. We're like, oh, we got nothing. Let's just make memes and laugh. And I was like, and the fact that that's such a more like you're smiling. And I would assume when they're like, hey, you gonna run again for a third time? You're like, yeah, because what else
I
am I gonna
smiled
do
like
with my
this. I
life?
was
Why
like, "Yeah,
smile? Yeah, why not?
yeah,
That part, that's one of the best campaign moves ever. It's like, I want to be like the people who are happy, even when they're not in
yeah."
office, even when they're losing, they're happy. Well, how do I do that? And that is a
Yeah.
great campaign strategy.
You know
And I
what?
think
I'm
that's
not
wonderful.
desperate. I'll tell you this,
That might be it too.
I'm not
You,
desperate, and I don't have, like, I don't need this in my life. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I'm not
yeah, you don't.
bored, and I'm not
Exactly.
desperate, and so some people are desperate, really, especially politicians that are, in a seat already. There's just a desperation to win
Yeah,
because people get caught up in things that I'm not saying I'm more evolved than the average person, but I've just let it go. I don't care about people's opinions. I I'm 46 years old. I do not care. It's like I'm
totally.
actually gone in the other direction. I do not care. I don't care what they think of me. I don't care what they say about me.
Perfect.
I have realized now the desperation that I see in people's eyes to hold on to their seat or to save face or to not have bad things or to not get made fun of or whatever. I don't have it. And that helps me in that I can continue to smile because what I have inside me, they didn't give me and they can't take it away. And
Right.
so I can continue to smile because there's this quote I love that says, I can't remember who says it off the top of my head, but it says, a smile is the chosen vehicle of all ambiguities. And
Oh,
so I
nice. Right.
realized
Yeah.
by smiling like this, you have no idea what
No
I'm
idea.
thinking. Am I gonna shoot you or am I gonna
Poker
give you
face.
a hug? And
It's
so
the perfect poker face. That's
it is,
exactly what it is.
always smiling. Everyone says that to me when I'm out in politics. I'm always smiling, and I'm like, "That's right."
Yeah. I think that's the desperation thing, I would chalk it up to narcissism. But I think there's one other thing, and we're going back to the
That's a good
Christian
point.
aspect. Christian aspect. A lot of people are desperate to hold on to the power because that is
Mm.
the hierarchy of their needs is right at the top. I think where you do come into play with your religious aspect is at the end of the day, the government's not the top. It's like
That's
you're
you hit it.
answering to
That's what I would
something
say to
totally
anybody.
else.
Correct. That's my
And
exact
so,
answer.
whereas in like, hey, you might not, someone might not vote for you because you're Republican. Like, look, I know where I'm going in life, and it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be this. I love the people, I love the city. I'm trying to do something for the people around me because I care about them. But at the end of the day, there's only one person I really have to answer to, and that thing. This is what I'm telling you. That freedom thing, people can see that in the eyes. Like
Mm.
I'm not a state worker, so I can register what you couldn't if they're like, "Oh, this guy, this Dave Lilly guy, I'm gonna call his job up." If you call my job, I'm answering the phone.
So
So I've
same
got
here.
a ton of freedom. So they're like, "Well, you can't cancel me.
Yep.
You can't do." And honestly, I'm not really that offensive, so there's nothing to cancel. But if I wanted to be, it doesn't matter because I don't have the shackles of being like, "Oh my god, I got to keep my position because if I slip up and say the wrong thing, then they might fire me." And I
Yes.
think Joe Scarborough is one example. He just watched Don Lemon get the can. Stelter got the can. He's
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god, any day now. I'm the
Yes.
morning show.
They're
No
like
one
little,
watches me."
the little guy with the nose, Pinocchio. They're like the little
Yeah.
marionettes. They're
Yeah,
like
yeah,
over
yeah.
here. They're like, "Oh, dance, pretty boy, dance. You gotta dance. You gotta do what we tell you to do." It that kind of stress and narcissism, yes, that is the third one for sure. I like I said, I'm not more evolved in any of this. I just because I'll tell you why you want a Christian in office. Really, a true Christian, not like a power monger. And you know what?
Yeah.
Christians get caught up in power. It happens.
Easily. Yeah.
Um, the reason why you would want a Christian in office is exactly what you said is because I first of all bow my knee to a power higher than myself because when we all if you are against someone who like say they have an atheist, their highest power in their worldview is themselves, which
Mhm.
means now their opinion, now we have to fight because my
Yeah, yeah.
opinion's higher than yours in my head and your opinion's higher than yours in your head and we have no source of absolute truth. Well, now we have war because I will fight for my opinion. I'll fight to keep my children alive and my, bread on the table and whatever that is. And so you want someone who says, you know, they're like, "Oh, you're going to consult God." Well, you know what? The God I consult loves you, and I am tasked with loving you as I love myself. So,
Yeah.
would you not want somebody who says, "Hmm, what would Jesus do?"
Right.
Now, what would Jesus do in this position, knowing that he loves you, he's moved with compassion, those things. People have twisted Jesus and whatever it is. But really, a true Christian is somebody who would say, I am not the highest thing in my mind. And that's important because then we're going to have an ideological battle for the rest of our lives if we can't agree that I'm not God, and you're not God. But to an atheist, they are God. And
Yeah.
so that is a problem. And when people get afraid of voting for a Christian, I'm like, you want me to look at you and say, I see value in you. I see something in you that's worth protecting and defending. There's something in you, whatever trajectory you've taken in your life, okay. However you constructed your family, okay. God still loves you. You're still made in his image.
Yeah. Yeah.
All these different things. And that's what so people are in the Christian world are so afraid right now of the word or Christian nationalist,
Oh yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
we look at the Bible before we look at the Constitution, and we believe the Constitution was written
Trump
from the
solved that this
Bible.
week, though. Trump solved that. He put
I
the
didn't see it. What
Constitution
did he do?
he put the Constitution in the
In the
Bible and
Bible,
sold it.
that's right. I did see that. He's selling those
People were like,
Bibles.
"Look at him, he's selling Bibles." Like T-shirts, sneakers,
Look,
NFTs, Bible. This was just
I'm
the normal thing.
pro-capitalism. I'm like, you
Yeah.
wanna put the Constitution in the Bible and sell it, and some goober out there is gonna buy it? Go buy it. Go
And
make
to
some
be
money.
honest, if you're a Christian and a Republican, you're like, "Dude, I've been carrying my Bible and my pocket Constitution. Now I just got it all in one."
Yeah.
I don't understand the problem here.
I know
It's
people
not
that
like
would
they
buy
weren't
that,
doing that.
and the Democrats think they're all,
You
goobers and
do.
hillbillies.
You
I
do
was
know
gonna say,
someone would buy that. I would. And
they're
I'm a
all
hardcore
goobers and
Christian.
hillbillies to the Democrats, but I'm like, "Hey,
No.
this
Oh,
is
it's
the
great.
beauty."
I
Yes.
would have bought the shoes too if they didn't sold out so fast.
I'll
I'm
give
not
you a
even a
Christian
sneakerhead.
nationalist statement right now. I
Oh,
for
no, don't do that. This is
the
gonna get clipped. It's
Constitution
gonna get
the
clipped.
Constitution is the Bible of the United States. That's how I believe. I believe that that
Wow,
is
that
the
is
founding document that we go to look to when we need
horrific.
something. Let's go to the Constitution. Just like a Christian might go to the Word of God, a an American needs to look into the Constitution. It is our founding document.
Yeah,
It is what gave birth to what we to fight even the fights we're having now, the fact that we can fight, the fact that we can say the things we say, it's because of the Constitution, and I have been studying it for the last 5 months very closely, and I'm teaching it to my kids right now in homeschool
awesome.
at like a 6th grade level, and I am telling you, I was like, did not see that. We have learned so much about um, the motivations behind it, the intentions, what it was supposed to mean originally, what it meant culturally at the time, what they thought it might mean in the future, the way they accommodated for those things. And so that's why I say it's the Bible. That sounds so Christian nationalist. It's true. You can't deny it. We've done personality studies and we've used primary documents to study the histories of all these people that wrote it. It's
Yeah,
undeniable. And
yeah.
so people might not like it, but it doesn't change the facts. In fact, I'll give you another quote that I love. I saw this on Reddit one time and I took it and I've adopted it as my own. It says, whether you laugh or whether you cry, the facts don't change.
That's just facts don't care about your feelings. You've just
Oh,
been spirited up.
yeah.
Um, I will say this, people are like, here's the Christian thing real quick.
Okay. Go ahead.
Joe Biden's a Catholic.
Okay.
So is Hochul. So why are people scared to vote for a Christian? You already did,
Okay.
right?
So yes, I didn't know Kathy Hochul says that
I,
she's a Catholic.
oh,
I didn't know that.
now do I believe they actually
I
are?
was gonna say I don't believe it, but okay.
No, but do you not remember when Hochul came out during COVID and she was like, "I need you to be my apostle." She was in
Yes.
church. This is one of the things
Like maybe do this. I was like,
when this
okay.
happened, I
I
almost lost
remember.
it. I was like,
Yes.
"Wait, what did she just say?" Now,
Yes.
this is worse than Trump selling a Bible, which I think is just funny because it's Trump and he's sometimes he's a clown and you can laugh at clowns.
Yes. And they don't
Hochul
mind.
came out Hochul was like, "Hey, I need you to be my apostles and get your family vaccinated." And I was like,
Remember that.
"From a pulpit." And so from then on, and to be
My
honest, at first,
libertarian in me was like, see ya.
I was like treading all over me right
Treading.
now. And my Christian beliefs too, treading all over my Christian beliefs. Anyway,
You know
um,
what? They all do it. And
they
I'll tell you
do.
Kathy Sheehan, I'll give you a quick Albany story. When I ran for mayor, I mean, I'm a Christian and I don't make like religion the number one thing that, I project out into the atmosphere, but I'm just saying like that's where I come from as a worldview. And I got invited by a church in Albany to come and open they were having a massive, like, community outreach, and they said, "Hey, would you come and open in prayer? This would be an awesome way to, like, get your name out there, the news will be there, and this is our way of, like, supporting you, not supporting you."
Mhm.
Like, you would come as, like, whatever, a friend. So I show up there, very excited. Kathy Sheehan was there. I was like, "What the heck's going on?" I was like, "Weird bait and switch." Like, what and I hope she's watching this someday. I hope she sees this because this really made me mad. So
Okay.
she's She gets so whatever. She's there. She commandeers my time spot. She opens up in prayer. I was like, "Wait, what?"
Oh, really?
So she gets the microphone and she takes it and she goes, "Praise the Lord." And I was like, "No." I was like, I almost felt like Will Smith. I was like, "Get my God's name out of your mouth." Like I was like, Kathy Sheen, I was so mad. I could have like just melted into the ground. I was like, did she just say praise the Lord? Did I hear her just say praise the Lord? I was like, she doesn't even know the Lord and he don't know her. I was
How
super
was her
upset.
prayer? Can I ask you, how was it? Was it
It wasn't really a prayer.
pre-scripted?
Nope, it was more
No?
like a speech of prayer. It was kind of like a talk prayer
Mhm.
where we were like, amen. It was weird. I didn't even close my eyes. I was like, this isn't a prayer. It's
Well,
like the no.
look, when you don't pray often, it can be kinda tricky.
So,
So,
whatever she is, I think she would consider herself a Catholic too, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. I honestly don't know any Catholics, and I'm not saying this they don't say praise the Lord, but it's not. I've not heard it be part of their like vernacular like it is in some kind of like more
yeah,
Pentecostal Christian circles. And so when she said that, I was like, where did she get praise the Lord from? She doesn't say that normally. It
I
didn't even sound natural.
she probably didn't know what type of church culture she was standing in. She was like, "Oh, man, is this one of
It was
those
a historically black
churches?"
church, actually, and
Oh, okay, there you go. So she was like, how do I
how do the
Hillary
people
Clinton? Do I
talk
pull
down
hot sauce out of
here?
my
Yeah.
do I pull hot sauce out of my purse like Hillary Clinton? How do I do this?" That's basically what she was
Yes,
going through
and
all
I
in her
was
head.
so miffed. I was like, "Don't pretend to be religious."
But she's a politician.
There you go.
She was
There you
pretending to
go.
be a lot of things all in once. But that's what she makes pretend. Let's just be honest. She makes pretend. I did like the leprechaun thing. I'm like, where's all this funding in Albany going to?
That
Pour it in
wasn't
a pot
me.
of gold.
I was just that was a quote of a quote. I when I was running for mayor, they would say things like, "Well, how's it going against the leprechaun?" And I was like, "Leprechaun?"
That's so mean.
Yes, I
Golly.
that was so that's what they call her, like, boots on the ground, and sometimes you'll see pictures of her, like, people do terrible things, and you know what? It's
Photoshop
hard.
rainbows and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's hard, like little
I love it.
Lucky Charms. It's really hard to be in leadership, regardless of whether you're doing good or you're doing bad. You can't please all the people all the
Oh,
time,
man.
so Kathy
I can't wait for
Sheehan
your memes to come out, and
they're already there.
that's gonna be great.
Somebody told me about one and they said it said like "not so purdy." They said, "Hey, have you seen the meme of not so purdy?" And
Oh, run with that. Run with it.
I was like,
Run with it. That's
No, do you
awesome.
have it? Like, could I see it?" And they said, "Well," I was like, so I'll tell you, there's a bunch of threads about me on Reddit. I don't read them. I cannot do it. I've
I
heard from
wouldn't.
like celebrities who say never read about yourself
Yeah,
online. And
all of
so
those threads are
I don't
coming
read
from a
it.
basement, just letting you know. Those threads are not coming from, like,
Yes.
somebody with a tie
So I
on.
don't read them.
That's
I
not
did see
happening.
them a couple times and I did giggle at a few of them. I was like, These people don't know me." But
Yeah,
when you're the mayor, the only thing I can say that's even, like, positive about anything at all is that she's a human being at the end of the day,
she is.
and they do some bad stuff there. They do some
She's
punky
somebody's
things.
grandma. She's
No,
somebody's
she's
grandma.
not anybody's grandma.
What?
She's not a grandma. I don't know. I don't think she has a son. I don't think she has anything else going on.
She's somebody's mom. She's
She
that
is
guy's
somebody's mom.
mom.
There you go. I don't think she's
There
a
you go.
grandma.
You gotta
She's
look at
I'm a grandma,
she is
though. I actually have 2 grandchildren.
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
One up on her. I was gonna say something, she is part of the Imago Dei, or
Yes.
she's half
Oh,
reptilian,
okay.
I'm not sure.
Wow.
Maybe she's but I
From
would
dust
say
she
the
came,
Imago
and to
Dei.
dust shall return. We'll start
Look,
there.
I got nothing against her as a person,
Like,
but
as a human being, right,
when you're
exactly.
in leadership,
Mhm.
you're you need to be criticized, and
It's a
that
different
includes
standard.
you. And so when you're elected, I'm gonna do a whole podcast, be like, "Let me tell you about how not
Call
so
it
Birdie
not
is
so
failing today."
purdy. Make sure. I got a
Oh, I'm
picture of
definitely gonna
Kathy
do it.
Sheehan. It's over on, it's on the Albany City Republican Committee page where we post all kinds of punky things about what's
I don't
going
think they
on.
let me in either.
You should
They
take a
might
look over there.
also take
It's
a look
very
at it.
funny. So I had this picture I found of Kathy Sheehan when I was running for mayor, and I just know that I would never allow this picture to exist. When I found it, I was like, "Oh, the Lord is real. He knows me." I was like, "I found this picture." Somebody had made a life-sized dummy of Kathy Sheehan, and it looked like her, but it
Oh,
was like a freakish, huge, inflated head standing next to her in, like, a city street, and she's, like, leaning against it like this, and I was like, "Oh, that's the worst picture I've ever seen." Save to
why?
special folder.
Why?
I will be using this again
Who took
someday.
the time to make that number 1? That's actually impressive.
And who got her to
I'm
stand
not
next
mad.
there and look, it was a Kathy Sheehan bigger than life size dummy, and so a couple months ago when the Stewarts near my house closed because of all these, like, robberies and stuff. It made the
No
news because
way.
people were so
Yeah,
mad. I
yeah.
got that I was like, "Where is that picture?" I've been sitting on that picture for 3 years. I was like, "Where is that picture?" So I got this picture and I just popped it into Canva, and I put on a T-shirt that said, "I'm was stupid," and the dummy was wearing that, and then she was and it was pointing at Kathy
I
Sheehan,
love
who
it.
was like this.
I love it.
That thing got more traction. I got calls from reporters that were like, they saw your picture in City Hall that you made of
Perfect.
Kathy Sheehan." And
Mhm.
I was saying, "I'm the," and I out of Kathy Sheehan's mouth, it said, "I'm the biggest dummy in Albany." And then it had the "I was stupid." I got such traction from that because the picture was the worst I've ever seen. I've never seen such a horrible picture, and it was so bad, it had to be made into something. And so,
Did you watermark it with your handle, with your
yeah, I put it under the Albany City Republican oh, yes. Yes, yes.
but with your name on it? What you need
No, I don't
like
put my name on
oh,
anything I do over there because other people do stuff, and,
yeah, yeah.
that's the only one
Yeah,
you can
that's
prove I
that's
did.
called stealing memes, which I steal memes all the time.
It's the only one
Um,
you can prove that I did. I do too.
yeah,
And so anyway, when you are all that to say, when you are a leader, not so pretty, you can expect
yeah,
that you
yeah.
just can't please everybody all the time.
That's good though. I actually appreciate that because if you didn't have any haters, then
Oh,
there's something off
check
about
Reddit.
that.
You'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I'm not gonna go there. That place is it's just not for me.
All
I'll
right,
pass on
immigration. We're
immigration.
into immigration.
Let's talk about all right, real quick. We'll make it quick.
Okay.
Immigration. Albany is a sanctuary city, right?
Yes.
Sanctuary city. Yes.
Affirmed just recently affirmed actually again by the Albany Common Council. It was almost I think it was a unanimous vote. They that's actually on the Albany City Republican Committee page as well. They were very upset. People in Albany were to see they did this whole thing where, the text is over there, but basically it was saying, "We want to affirm and pass a resolution saying, if you are illegal, come here. If you are this, come here. We want you here. You're like going to be our new backbone. We're a nation of immigrants." That's not true. We're actually a nation of citizens. People
Yeah, yeah.
immigrated here, but they became citizens, and that's what made America. We're not a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of citizens. And anyway, so they write this whole thing and affirming. And when I was running for mayor, they were flying in planes filled with Afghanis, and the opportunity came again for Kathy Sheehan to stop that, and then all these this like some kind of they were thinking it was MS-13 or some kind of gang was like running through Albany on these like bikes and stuff. But
I remember that.
she had we had to call in the sheriffs and the state troopers,
Mhm.
and she had the opportunity at that point in time to like I think somebody had asked her like a deadline came up or something where she was supposed to like say we should probably return these people over to ICE because they're known criminals. And she reaffirmed, no, we are a sanctuary city. Come here. We will protect you.
Wow.
And here we are.
Here we are. This with this increasing immigration issue. I mean, all my family's from Texas, so I keep an eye on that stuff. It's getting pretty bad. I haven't paid attention to what's if Albany was involved. It seems like a lot of these people are going to New York City, but I know they're flying them all over the country. This is
Mhm.
becoming a huge, major political issue in the presidency.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to be hand in glove with you running
Yes.
in
Okay,
assembly?
yes, let's
Okay,
talk about the legislative level,
let's go.
and that's what we have to know about is the legislative level
Yep, yep.
because the infrastructure is, first of all, already there. The people have already written the text that's going to ensure that the immigrants have a soft landing. That's already there. So when you go look at, it's so easy. You can just go to assembly.gov and literally you can run searches. I run keyword searches. I type in things like firearms, abortion, immigrants. Like I take all these hot topics and I go through and research them.
All the keywords.
And
Oh, the FBI loves your search history, by the way. The
you don't
feds
even
are
know. So
really
I'm a writer, and I
oh,
used to research some really weird stuff, I'm not gonna lie. And
okay.
so I
Well,
said to my husband, "If anything ever happens to me, burn my computer. Like, just get rid of it. It's nothing good is there to if anything happens to you, I'm getting rid of my computer."
yeah, yeah.
And so, anyways, when you look through those kind of things, you realize, okay, let's talk legislative level. So the legislation that's there right now, permits, yeah, immigrants to come in, of course, but you can't
Illegal or legal?
it doesn't matter.
Doesn't so the title before because immigrants, that's a migrant. Is that the PC way to say people who've crossed the border without
No,
getting
so
anything
historically, a
like that? Or?
migrant is somebody who comes in looking for something specific, like a job.
Yeah, but when I hear immigrant, automatically people think they're on their visas or they went through and the
Right. So we'll
asylum.
say illegal. So what they don't like, and I'll tell you, and I'm just gonna say because I like it. It's illegal alien. That's the
Yeah, but
word they
that
don't want to use.
Joe Biden said that. That's where I
Yeah,
heard it
oh,
from.
believe me, I know. He's not supposed to though. Didn't take his meds that day. He's not supposed to say that. He
Yeah.
illegal
Actually, he took
alien
too
is what
many.
they're
That was the
classically called.
state hold on, I gotta fix because facts check. That was the State of the Union, and not only did he take his meds, he took a lot more than what
Right,
that was the State
yes.
of the Union.
He was
So not
very
that's when they were like,
medicated.
"We gave him too much. We gave him too much." He's using words like illegal alien. Anyway, go
He's
back.
being
So
coherent now.
I know a little bit too much.
So, yeah,
Uh,
so what's gonna happen is
immigrant
what you're
thing.
gonna look at is there's bills so not every bill that somebody writes, any wingnut can write a bill in the
Yeah.
legislature. So, is it gonna get voted on? Probably. A lot of them won't. So, the biggest thing to know is that right, the way that New York specifically is that it's so partisan. I've had lots of assembly people tell me, "We don't even care if it's a common sense bill. If it has a D on it, I'm not signing it. I don't care what it says."
Yeah, yeah.
It could be
Wow.
the, like, "I don't want my child to die act." Well, nobody wants their
Yeah.
child to die act, but if a D is passing it, the Rs won't sign it. It doesn't matter what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. It could be like, "Well, we don't want our
Mhm.
children to die, but we don't want you to say it, so we're gonna say it ourselves." So there's that. We have a 100 there's a 100 Democrats right now in the assembly and like 48 Republicans. And so anything the Democrats put out is probably going to pass.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what's coming
Unanimously.
out, a lot of the legislation, I'm looking at the names and stuff. What's so ironic is most of them are out of New York City that are asserting legislation. I shouldn't say pass. They're not all passing, but the legislation and the ideas that are coming out are from like the Democratic Socialists of America, and a lot of them
Mhm.
are down in Queens. They're
Yeah, yeah.
down in New York City, and what they're looking for is they want free housing for the migrant, immigrant, illegal alien people, and they want them to be fed and housed. Housing is about to hit a major brick wall here in the city of
Yeah.
Albany and in the state of New York. Housing, that's legislation. So it's not going to be so overt like we should have immigrants come in and flood us. It's not going to
No,
say
no.
that. What
No,
they're
no,
going to
no.
do and what they are doing is they are creating legislative infrastructure, and one of those is in housing. And so a couple things that they're starting to say in the legislation, I just saw something from Pat Fahey the other day. They're having a rule, just saw it in the Albany Common Council. It's layers. So the Common
Mhm.
Council is
Yeah,
separate
yeah.
and distinct from the Assembly. But interestingly, I'm a journalist, this is what I do. They both have similar legislation they just passed. So this is so that Albany is
Somebody sent out a
scaffolded.
newsletter.
It's all scaffolding. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what's happening is they're creating a thing where you cannot give a short-term rental, let's say Airbnb.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't have that in the city of Albany. You have to give people a lease. If it's it has to be over 30 days and there's a lease. And Pat Fahey, interestingly enough, just had something very similar come out. And the reasoning in the text is we need more houses, and people are holding
Yeah,
on
yeah,
to their
yeah.
homes and they're
Right?
renting them out to like Airbnb, and they're making too much money. And it said at the bottom of the Albany Common Council one, this is a revenue stream for the city of Albany that they're going to like heavily tax and penalize through code
Whoa.
violations. Any house that they did not apply for their permit, did not go through the buildings and codes. I mean, they are restricting business and rentals in the city of Albany. And they said it's because we're trying to prevent a housing crisis. Well, first of all, who are
Who's
they housing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we know now, but yeah.
It's gonna be migrants. So that's what you have to look at. It does not the legislation won't say things like immigrants and
Yeah,
migrants
yeah.
and illegal aliens. It's going to say, "We need more housing." They're not even talking affordable housing, that was a different issue. This is
Yeah.
actual housing. They need a place to put migrants. In fact, Albany City was just reassessed in their tax values of their homes. It's just layers. Some people's house values went up by 300%. And guess what they're gonna do next? They're gonna tax it. They're gonna tax it at their new assessed value. And
If
so that's how they bring in
hold on. So
revenue.
all of a sudden, 300%, everyone's houses were like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, so I bought
I've
my
driven
house
through
for
Albany
nothing.
recently. Yeah.
3 times it's worth
That's
over
funny.
300,000 now, and I bought my house for, like we bought an old fixer-upper. We bought it for 125. It's
Yeah.
assessed at well over 300,000. Nothing has
Wow.
changed. I mean, like, we
Yeah.
put up a few walls and knocked down some lath and plaster, but on the outside, nothing has changed. I had a little old man say his house went up 179%, and he was like, "How am I supposed to pay my taxes on this?" And I was like,
You're
unfortunately,
not.
I
You're
right,
supposed to get rid of it.
you're supposed to move out of the city and give it to a
Yeah.
migrant." And so we were gonna put our house up for sale. at one point in time. And our realtor at that time had said to us, I said, "Who's gonna buy the house? What do you think?" And she said, "For 300 and whatever." It's not even worth that. But anyway, so she said, "Oh, well, the city of Albany will probably buy it, be interested, or the state." I was like, "Why would they be interested in my little
What?
house in Albany?" And she said, "Because they're trying to shift the Section 8 population out of downtown Albany and put them into homes." Well, who's gonna go in the Section 8 housing, do you think? It's gonna be the aliens. And
Yeah,
so this is all it's the creep. It's just little by little. So you won't find it, it's
God.
not overt. You really
No,
have to do your digging, and that's by design. You cannot find this stuff unless you are bored like me. Well, I said I wasn't bored, and I'm also not afraid of, having not having my power. I will
yeah,
tell you
yeah.
what I am. I'm somebody who likes to read a lot, and I really like this kind of stuff. And when I'm like sitting by myself and I have free time, I read assembly bills. Like that's just what I like. I've always done that for 20 years of my career. And so I was
That's
reading it and
that's
I was
great. That
thinking,
sounds awful, but yeah, if you enjoyed it,
it's a
you'd be
thing.
the person to vote for.
I'm reading it and
Yeah,
I'm thinking to myself, oh, I found the trail. It's through housing. That's
yeah.
where they're going to get you.
That makes sense. In
Yeah.
Albany, I pay attention
That's
to
why you
real
need a
estate a
legislator who
little bit,
represents common sense people and it says, "No, I won't sign it.
right?
I won't vote for it, and I'm gonna resist it, or I'm going to tell other people about it that you're doing it, and they're gonna get you at the polls."
Right? Here's the thing, and this is what you're gonna get labeled with because you've already been labeled with it before, especially when this comes out, or if no one's gonna pay attention to this podcast, so it's fine. They're gonna tell you that you're not empathetic to
Wrong.
the plight of the immigrant, but really your job is what you're right, is to not be like, "I am all caring for everyone who comes over the border." Your job is to be caring for the people that are already in your
Correct.
district,
My heart is
and
for the
people forget
American
about that.
veteran, the New York State resident, the
There you go.
taxpayers, and the children, and you know what? First of all, we are a nation of people who have come into the country, whatever,
Yep.
every nation has that, but, uh, I am America first, and I don't say it in the way whatever, I don't know how Donald Trump said it, but I believed it when he said it. I was like, "Yes."
The
You know what?
people
In France, they're
America
saying France first, and in
yeah,
Spain, they're saying Spain first. We can say America first, and that's
right?
okay to say, "My brother's an American veteran, and he does, something that's independent from the VA because of how much the VA struggles to really care
Yeah.
for American veterans, and so many of them kill themselves."
It's atrocious.
And
Yeah, yeah,
we wanna
it's rough.
talk about these are people that are
But hey,
they're gonna
Alicia,
solve it.
Ukraine is doing they're having a hard time too.
You
They're
know
having
what
a hard
Russia's
time.
saying? Russia first.
Yeah,
Right, Ukraine, they're saying the same thing. Ukraine
yeah.
first. That's why
We're
people go to
the
war.
America's the only place that you can't say that because
No,
we are supposed to be
yeah.
the empathetic soft pillow of the world,
You can
and
have
that's fine.
empathy. There's nothing wrong with being empathetic, of course, to the plight of the human condition. But we have to be honest about something. First of all, this is not women and children that are flooding the borders. First of all,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
separate issue. This is healthy young men of military age, and most of them have criminal records. That's what they're finding. These are violent offenders. They threw a baby up over the wall, and like somebody caught it on the other. One of the American Border Patrol had to catch it because they tossed a toddler like it was a sack of potatoes up and over the wall. It was a human being. These are not people who that are coming into this country who are like people want to be gainfully employed. Somebody asked me that the other day. They accused me of being hateful, and I was like, no. These are not people who are coming here to be hardworking, tax paying, citizen getting. You know what? Go get in line. You can come. That's how I see
yeah.
it. You can come, but you need to get in line. I have wonderful friends who immigrated here. They fled from persecution from other countries, and they are, like, so resentful. Like, we had to wait for a decade to get our papers.
That was
We've
my
been
point.
waiting to buy
That's
a
what I was gonna
house.
say.
We wanna pay
Yep.
taxes. They own businesses. That is the American process. You can come in, but you need to come in through the front door. That's my perspective on immigration. It's the American perspective. It's not unique to me. It's not 'cause I'm a Christian nationalist. It's the common sense perspective. This is how our country works. We are
Yep.
a nation of laws. You have to come in the front door. You are welcome, but you have to knock and then we'll open the door. That's how it works.
That's it. It's everything's in perspective. That's my point. It's a cheap
Yeah,
shot to be like, look how you're not empathetic. You're not sympathetic to any of these people. Can be like, no, I am. I actually am more than you because I'm actually looking at the larger perspective. The housing crisis thing
it's
well,
hard.
not the housing. That's a hard part for Albany, especially
Mhm.
for all the people in your district who are parents and their kids are in college and they're about to come out and they're like, hey, mom and dad, I'd like to start a family. Well, good luck, Junior, because the house that you grew up in is now worth a quarter of a million
You can
dollars.
right, that's isn't
Get
that
have
crazy?
fun, have fun.
Yes.
So this whole the gov I mean, again, my libertarian don't just
I told you I have
have
my
a hard time with
libertarian
that.
sprinklings. I'll
Um,
get you.
but to have a common sense
Yeah.
legislators, like, I care about people coming across the border. I want people to be safe. But if we drowned, if Albany crumbles there's nothing to come to. So at least
Yeah.
let's pull the reins back. Let's get Albany back to where it was. Crap. 15 years ago would be fine. Let's just go back to that part where
Oh,
it's
the
at
Jerry
least
Jennings
somewhat
years. That's before Kathy Sheehan became the mayor. She's
right.
the mayor like 12 years now.
I
Um,
don't know if you know
that's
this,
the
but
golden age.
Jennings, it's the orange age. It's orange age again. Something about these guys that they're in their tans. Something about them. Um, anyway, I think you're running a great run. I think the more people
I'm
that
looking
hear you.
forward to it. It hasn't even really started yet because we're just
Oh
doing
no, it
petitions.
started. No, no, no. It's we're plowing down the road. This for everyone listening. If you're in Albany in that county, can they go to a website? Do you have a
Yes, they
website?
can come
Anything
over
they can,
to
okay. I'm gonna
electaliciapurdy.com.
put it in the say it
Okay,
again. I'm gonna put it in the episode notes. So if you're watching this, you
great.
can go to the notes and say it again so people can
So elect and then my name, aliciapurdy.com. I
perfect.
I'm so new to it. I haven't even built the whole website up, but it's there. The donation button's there. The about me is there. And it's actually a branch of my personal website where I do like my authoring and stuff, which is
Yeah, yeah.
purdyalicia.com.
Okay.
And I just put it all there because I people last time felt like they didn't really know me and I had all this legwork to do. Well, I spent the last 3 years creating all that legwork. And
Mhm.
so it's all there now, and people can learn about my journalism career and they can see things I've done. I have a YouTube channel where I have all my radio programs are all up there. That I want people to be able to see more about me and to get to know me better
Right.
because they should. And I'll be at the doors. This is just something you have to do. You want a candidate and a politician that's an incumbent going to the doors and facing people that they represent to say, I'm listening. What is your issue? And if it is immigration and or something really tough like that, where what I've normally found with people is that, like I said, they can come at like they Joe Biden and your team Trump. At the end of the day, they think they're doing the right thing, even if it is the wrong thing. They're sort of like genuinely wrong. And you can work with that because your hearts are actually the same. Some
Right.
people do
Yeah.
want to destroy America. That is those people are there.
Yeah. Difference between ignorance and maliciousness. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And really, the lion's share of people are just woefully misinformed,
That's it.
or they
Because we're
are
watching Joe
afraid.
Scarborough in the morning. I
Yeah, they're
still
starting their day with the rage, the cup of rage. In fact,
that.
there's that show in the area of Road Rage with Kevin McCashin. He was on, and he called it Road Rage, and it was so angry and ranty, and actually people loved it. They loved the rage. It had this like vibe of like righteous indignation, that kind
I
of
can see
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
very cynical, and people liked that. But it was serious, but I always felt like it had a tongue in cheek vibe to it. But when you really somebody like Joe Scarborough, he's being totally genuine. That's where it gets scary, like,
That gets nervous. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we have to be that way. I just don't.
I hope not. I don't assume anybody in Albany is that way either. Most people can look at this. They're all looking at the same city that you're looking at, and they're just
Yes.
not sure how to solve it. So it's nice to have people like you come in and be like, "Hey, I've got an idea. I know you've never seen this before because it's been down the ballot for however no long, but here's a few
I
ideas
hope
that
so.
are empathetic. They're just a little bit
Common
more
sense.
consideration. It's
Mhm. We
common
all live
sense."
here, we're living together, and I think that there's a way to work through that brings peace, but you know what? It's the legislative level that matters. The things that are happening where no one's gonna go look but somebody like me, who has
Yeah,
time on their hands and the interest in this area to go find this out. I want to help people see the effect they can actually have because legislation will be on the ballot in November. And so
right.
people have said to me, I'm not even going to vote. I'm not going to vote for a president. And I'm like, okay, but you have to show up. You have to,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
send in your petition.
There's
There's going
more
to be
people on it than
legislation
just
on there
presidents. Most people are like we're just
and
voting for
actual
president, right?
legislation,
Like,
like the documentation that people
yeah,
wrote. Once they are going to pass it, they're going to go shove it into Kathy Hochul's hands. They are gonna put it on the ballot for it. That's the process. You're supposed to vote on that stuff. So when they
no,
go,
yeah,
"I didn't vote for that," but if
no,
you didn't show up to vote, no,
you
you
did,
literally didn't vote for it, but you did. What
yeah,
happened is that was your vote. And so I tell people if you just can't vote for a president, fine. But I'm gonna be on the ballot, but also locally, there's going to be legislation. And you've got to look at that. And in New York, 9 times out of 10, 10, 9.5, 9 3/4 of times out of 10, just vote no. Because it
yeah,
was
yeah.
written by a Democrat. They got an agenda. They're gonna be like, "Do you want clean water and clean air?" And you're like, "Well, yes." And they're like, "Okay, well, there's something buried underneath there. There's a bait and switch in there." So I just vote. Tell her just vote now. In New York, just vote now. But you do have to
Rule of
vote.
thumb, whatever it's named, chances are it's the opposite.
That's
It's like,
that's true.
Saving
That's
Children's Act, like
actually
they're
true.
trying to kill children, which is probably an abortion bill. It's probably what it is. Saving
That
Kids
ship
Act,
has you know what? Honestly, that ship
abortion
has
9
sailed in
months.
New York. I'm a pro-life candidate, and I have
Yeah,
told people before, I'm gonna vote pro-life 100% of the time.
it's not gonna
But
do anything.
there you go. I was like, "What does that have to do with anything?" In New York State,
You
that
can
vote
sleep
means
at night. That's
nothing.
about as much as it will do. You can sleep at night.
It's true. I'm a non-threat when it comes to abortion. I'll always
Right.
vote pro-life, but it means
It doesn't
we're
mean anything.
outnumbered and it means nothing. So we have to focus on things we can deal with that really
Right.
do affect us all. And that immigration would be definitely one of them.
And housing, everyone's gonna feel that.
I'm telling you,
Everyone feels that housing.
watch housing. It's
It's gonna get
coming.
crazy.
It's
No.
coming through housing. That's the channel they're gonna
Let's
use,
hope
taxes
let's
and
hope
housing.
let's get you in office. Let's hope it doesn't with that. Alright, one more time where people
Alright.
can go to learn about your campaign, all that stuff. Where do they go?
Alright. So you can find me the best 2 ways to find me are come over to
Okay,
electaliciapurdy.com. That's like the website. But I'm
okay.
super active on Facebook and you can come find me there.
That's a
And
good
you
time.
can just type in Alicia Purdy for New York State Assembly and it'll bring it up. I do all the interactive stuff over on Facebook. All like the reading
Okay.
stuff will be on the website. The interactive stuff where I have my little microphone and I go out and do my thing, that's going to be over there where you can see the way I'm trying to teach people about the process. I'm like, hey, I'm petitioning signatures.
Super
This is why you
important.
should sign. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
my hope that people will become more engaged in their own existence through
Yeah.
what they're seeing that I'm doing and as a candidate and hopefully as the person who's seated there because that won't stop. That's the kind of person I am is I'll tell you. I did all the work. I'll share it with you. You should know and
Mhm.
let me teach you how to do it. Now I can help you figure this out. That's the kind of person I am that people need to understand more. They just don't, and I want them to and take. I want them to take control of their own existence here in New York State. We can do that.
Yeah, educated citizenry. Imagine that.
Yes,
People
imagine
being
that. It's by
educated.
design that people are not.
Oh, and it's by design by a particular party, but we won't go any further into
All
that.
right.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Go to the website, go to the Facebook 'cause it's a lot more funner than going to the website. That's kinda boring. Let's be honest. There's your first
If you
meeting.
want to read all the long stuff, yeah, it's not so
Super
pretty
boring.
over there.
Just go to the Facebook. Alicia, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, David.
I appreciate it. Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Pardonable Podcast. I love having Alicia on. Number one, it's about local politics, and I know everyone's like, vote local because it's important, but no one really pays attention to it. But it is, and hopefully, this episode taught you that the local elections are actually far more important than the presidential one. I know that sounds dumb because MSNBC and old Joe Scarborough is telling you nonsense, but it's not true. Vote local. If in Albany come up in this election, if 12,000 people go vote, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you people. Go register to vote if you're not registered and be involved. Learn about your city because you live in it. And if you don't learn, you're going to be washed away in the river of ignorance. The Hudson of ignorance is going to flow you right down. It's going to go right into the Hudson down the city. And we all know what kind of toxin that thing is, the Hudson down there. Anyway, appreciate you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will see you back here Sundays, 8 o'clock Eastern time for live. It'll just be me doing this, ranting. It's a good time. Anyway, and go to pardonwell.com and buy my book, By Every Meaningless Measure. It's art and poetry. Do that, support the podcast. Love you guys.